All right, y'all. Good evening. What's going on, y'all? Dr. Pierre here, your favorite board certified internist. Welcome to another episode of The Real Physician Reacts. This is our live weekly series here on TikTok, where we just talk about topics that either come across our social media landscape or something that we address, right? So on TikTok, again, if you're not following me, make sure you hit the like, hit that share button. If you listen to this on the podcast, make sure you follow me on TikTok at Dr. Pierre. This week we are talking about weight loss battle drugs, right? Like I like to say like that. Like I think it's easier when you kind of compare one versus the other, even though, interesting enough, these medications are a lot similar than different. So easy enough, a lot similar than different, but we are going to talk about it. So the newest drug on the market specifically for weight loss is Wegovy. Now you're going to hear a lot of people mention the drug Ozempic, and you're going to say, Dr. Barry, what is the difference between Ozempic and Wegovy? And the answer is nothing. I know that sounds wild. Like, what is the difference between Wegovy and Ozempic? The answer is nothing, except Wegovy is FDA approved for losing weight. Wegovy is FDA approved for losing weight. In fact, if you do a search for FDA approved, and I know y'all like the FDA approved drugs because during this pandemic, that was a big point, sticking point. Like, oh, it's not FDA approved. They're not FDA approved in reference to the vaccine. So I know y'all really care about FDA approved. So the FDA approved drug for weight loss right now is Wegovy. Yes, it is the same medication as Ozempic, but it's in different doses. So based on the doses that you're taking will let me know whether you're taking this as a diabetic patient or you're taking this strictly for the weight loss. And it's important. As well as Mounjaro, which is strictly right now as I speak, the 27th of July. It is FDA approved for diabetes, but it's going through the progress to get FDA approved for the weight loss. I want us to think about that. So FDA approved is important for you guys. Right now, we know there's only one medication, at least during this discussion, that is FDA approved for weight loss. So I will get to your question. I see your question, Scarlet Rich. I will definitely get to your questions. Make sure you like, make sure you share, make sure you follow. Make sure you follow. You should be following. And again, if anyone who misses the discussion, remember we do post this on our YouTube page, which is linked in said bio, as well as on the podcast. So if you're a podcast listener, this episode audio-wise will be on the podcast. If you like watching the video, this will be on our YouTube page. Now, of course, the difference between the YouTube page is that you can't really see the comments. Unfortunately, TikTok doesn't record the comments as you're seeing it. That would be amazing if it did. Like if anyone's on TikTok is following, it would be amazing if it did, but they don't. So let's start from the beginning, right? Let's start like what are these two drugs, right? Mounjaro and Wegovy. What are these two drugs? Class wise, again, we'll break it down. You know, little pharmacology. We're not gonna get too deep because y'all not here for that. Y'all are here for, hey, does this thing work or not? And I will cut it short, right? So I'm not even gonna drag it out. These medications definitely work for weight loss. They are definitely great weight loss medications. Right now, only one of them is FDA approved, and that's Wegovy. Only one's FDA approved for now. Again, July 27th. Like, don't see this video in like 2-3 months, and you're saying, oh no, you didn't tell me about Mounjaro being FDA approved. It's there. So both these medications are what we call GLP-1 agonists, which means there are certain receptors on our body that help control blood sugar. And these are the things that GLP agonists do. They increase insulin secretion. They increase your body's sensitivity to the insulin you secrete. They decrease glucagon. They decrease glucagon. You may be, hey, Dr. Barry, what is glucagon? Glucagon is what your body does to say, hey, I want you to make a molecule, we'll say a molecule, a substance that will eventually turn into glucose and what we know as sugar. So if I decrease the production of that process, guess what? Get what I do downwind. I decrease your body's production of sugar downstream. Just so again, I don't want y'all to get straight pharmacology. It's not important. I know some of y'all really want to know it, but it's not like deep. Y'all don't want y'all not my medical students, y'all not my residents. Y'all don't need to know it that deep. Y'all just kind of want to have an idea. Now, one thing it does do, and we'll definitely have to talk about that because I'm already seeing New York Post and I'm already seeing it on Reddit. It does cause the class of medications, GLP-1 agonists, it does cause decreased stomach emptying. Decreased stomach emptying. This is a known side effect of GLP-1 agonists. Why is that important? So that when you read some article off, Shade Room, TMZ, talking about a medication causing stomach paralysis. Listen. Like, look. This is what the media does, y'all. They take known side effects. Like, we know it. Like, it's not a shock, it's not a surprise. They take known side effects that we know based off of medication, and then they sensationalize it, call it something different, and make you think that this is something that was a shock to everyone. So we know GLP agonists decrease slow gastric emptying, right? AKA you eat food, how long it takes for your food to move through your system, especially through your stomach. That's a process. And those medications slow that process down. But now I do a Google search, right, on Ozempic, and now I'm hearing, oh my God, Ozempic causes stomach paralysis, and they scare y'all, because that's what they do, right? They scare y'all to say, oh my God, this medication causes stomach paralysis. Oh no, get me away from that medication. And then they tell you to go get the other medication. Now, mind you, I just said Mounjaro and Wegovy both are GLP-1 agonists, which means they both carry the risk. They both carry that risk for the decreased stomach emptying, aka stomach paralysis, but only one is being marketed like that's the issue, right? So again, just wanted to make sure we kind of get a baseline of what the medications do. Now, like, some great medications, they started out one way. And the best example I love to give is Pfizer's drug Viagra. When they first marketed that drug Viagra, they said, hey, we want a medication that will work on hair loss. We want a medication that will help with hair loss. A side effect was that, whoa, all these men keep getting erections. Think about that. I want a medication for hair loss. All of these men keep getting erections. Guys, we need to turn the car around and we need to go in a different direction. Next thing you know, billions of dollars later, you got Viagra. So you have medications that started out as medications say, hey, I know someone says double win for men. That's funny. Someone says, so they started out saying, hey, I want to treat diabetes. We know how bad diabetes is. We know all of the risks and side effects. If you caught last week's live, you know. Here it goes. As they're looking to see that this medication is working on decreasing our hemoglobin A1C, which is our medication to, that shows how well we're controlling our blood sugars. Hey, you know what? These people are losing weight, right? Like, so this is what happens. They go for one thing. They say, hey, I want to help control people's blood sugars because diabetes is a problem. We've talked about it ad nauseum. We will not restart it here. And then they start noticing a lot of people losing weight. And they say, we got one. All right. So you have Wegovy, which is the first medication that's been FDA approved for weight loss since 2014. Almost 10 years since we've been able to FDA approve a weight loss medication. Just to show you like how important that is. And someone kind of mentioned it earlier. it's to the point where once people started recognizing this diabetic medication was also losing weight, guess what happened? Guess what y'all did? Not y'all on the live, but guess what y'all in the general public did? All of a sudden, people who needed it, someone said, I need the pill fast. The pills are coming. Right now, they're not in pill form. Right when they recognize, hey, this medication is losing weight, all of a sudden you had all of these non-diabetic patients getting this medication, buying this medication, telling the doctors, hey, I need this medication. So you had a lot of non-diabetic patients taking a drug that was only for the diabetic patients, which is why someone earlier said, hey, I'm having trouble even getting the medication because they didn't recognize like, hey, we should be producing enough because a lot of people may need help losing weight. They are only producing it for the diabetics. So they got caught kind of like, we don't have that many supplies. So they had to kind of backtrack on the supply aspect because so many people, right? So many people were getting it who weren't actually diabetic. Now, of course, they're newer drugs. And a lot of people said on the live, they're expensive. These are not inexpensive drugs. Right now, most of your insurances don't even cover it. Why? Because in the class that they're in, you have other medications, GLP agonists, that you can use that are cheaper. So if you're an insurance company, you're like, hold on, no. If you're really a diabetic using it, for a GLP agonist, you go use that cheaper one. And if you want to go lose it for weight loss, you go try to get it yourself, right? So of course, now you got healthcare workers and providers having the right prescriptions for people who want to lose weight. You have weight loss clinics getting this medication out the wazoo. So you guys how much out of pocket? Right now, it's about $1,000. About $1,000, and I think that's for either or. Let's check GoodRx while we're on the live here. Wegovy, but it's about $1,300, $13 for my local pharmacies. Now let's try Mounjaro and GoodRx for those who don't have great insurance or no insurance. GoodRx is a great website to get coupons for your most common prescription medication. So I always suggest my patients, even if you have insurance, hey, check to see if your medication on GoodRx could be a little cheaper, because you'd be surprised that you can be having insurance and still have a medication that your insurance doesn't cover, but GoodRx does. So Mounjaro here locally, I'm seeing $9.89, $1,000, $1,000. So about $1,000 to about $1,300 cost. So yes, it costs some money. And this is what I think. It costs money to get healthy. We already know in this country, we already talked about this before, right? It costs money. Someone says their pharmacy is charging $1,700. Let me tell you, that pharmacy is getting money. That pharmacy is getting some money. That pharmacy is getting you. That pharmacy is getting you. Because, it should not be. If that extra $700 is going right into the pharmacist's pocket, because there's usually no margin on that $1,000, $1,300. So that rest is going right into the pocket, right? So that is the nutshell, right? Mounjaro, Wegovy, two medications in the same class. Again, they are in the same class. Mounjaro is also a G1P agonist, but for our discussion, think of them both in the same class of medications. They're both injectable medications. And just depending on the dose, when we talk about Mounjaro, I think it's 5, 10, and 15. And the studies that they're doing specifically for weight loss, now we're talking about weight loss, specifically for weight loss, is they're seeing that between 10 milligrams and 15 milligrams, you get the most weight loss, which makes sense. The more medication, the dosing, the more weight loss. As far as Wegovy is concerned, they want you to start at 0.25 milligrams a week, but eventually get to 2.4 milligrams weekly. Now, again, don't worry about the dosing and try to compare the two. That's not important. It's just a matter of where they're at. Because when we're talking about Ozempic, the medication that is it essentially is Wegovy, but it's for just the diabetic patients. the dosing is actually higher. So that's how we know, like, hey, are you taking this medication because you're diabetic, or are you taking this medication because you're trying to lose weight? Because the dosing is different. So that's why, from an FDA perspective, they have to market it as Wegovy, because Wegovy says, hey, take up to this dose. But if you're a diabetic, you can take up to higher doses. Like if you're doing it for weight loss, you don't take Wegovy up to a certain number of doses. But if you're doing it just for weight loss, you take it up to your 2.4, which is the max, and then you keep it moving from there. All right, just so we can get an idea from that standpoint. And I know someone asked, like, all right, so what are the qualifications, right? So for Wegovy, right, if you have a BMI over 30, you are in class to be able to get that medication. They say, hey, you know what? Yep, you meet the requirements to get it. Now, like both medications, they also work great if you have some cardiovascular risk factors, history of heart disease, maybe have some heart disease in itself, because they also reduce your risk for developing that, right? If you have some risk factors for cardiovascular disease, hypertension, high cholesterol, these are great medications. But again, remember, they were for our diabetic patients to also reduce that risk. Again, it's not end all be all, like, all right, I take this Mounjaro and my heart disease is waning, right? It's just a matter of, hey, I take this medication here and it will also help, right? Just so we can kind of get it clear. Now, I saw a lot of people said, what are the side effects? So if we think about how this medication works, as far as decreasing our glucagon production, increasing insulin secretion, increasing insulin sensitivity, and we say, all right, if it does, and decreasing gastric emptying, now we have to think, all right, what are the side effects? Are likely going to be opposite of what they work on. So majority of the side effects are going to be GI related, either be nausea. In both studies, and they've done studies on Wegovy and Mounjaro, both studies are, all of the side effects have been GI related: diarrhea, nausea, vomiting. They've all kind of fell into that class there. Now again, and I kind of mentioned earlier, especially if you came on late, like you're seeing a lot of our conspiracy theorists and people who just can't wait to find something wrong with a medication talk about stomach paralysis. It's a scary word. It's a scary word, but all it is gastroparesis, aka the slowing of the stomach down. But remember, you on this live here, you already heard Dr. Barry said, hey, one of the results of that class of medication is that it decreases gastric emptying. So they have sensationalized a known side effect to make you guys scared. They're like, oh, I'm going to get away from this thing here. Like, I'm not going to do it. Right. Like get that medication absolutely away from me. Right. So that's what they do. Right. When it comes to medicines, especially newer medications, is that they try to scare you fully. Right. Alex says, fellow D here. Yes, I am Nova Southeastern University. I think they just changed our name to Kiran C. Patel Osteopathic Medical School. Let's get to questions. I am not going to forget y'all questions. I see y'all questions. Y'all are live tonight. I appreciate it. Make sure you like, make sure you share, make sure y'all follow. This was just random, but not necessarily due to, I had a tree branch scratch my eye and I can't go to the doctor right now. A lot of times, especially with any abrasions, and again, I'm not an optometrist or ophthalmologist, but anytime you're dealing with abrasions, the biggest concern, obviously, we're looking for is just visual loss and making sure, that doesn't become an issue, right? So when you're at home, you can't get to anywhere. Big thing for us is just keeping that cool compress on, right? Sometimes you have to shield it from the light because you don't want the thing not necessarily blinding you, but causing stress to it. And obviously trying to avoid, any irritants in the eye, cold water, just rubbing, and then eventually go to see your doctor, especially if it continues to persist, because corneal abrasions hurt. And a lot of times you need steroid drops to kind of decrease the inflammation. Here on the Real Physician Reacts, we touch everything from that standpoint there. Someone says I'm an Ozempic for weight loss, but Wegovy can hardly be found. Yeah. So yeah, this is what Ken, and I kind of just highlighted what Kenny says, right? He's on Ozempic, but he can barely find the Wegovy. Now again, remember, it's the same medication, right? It's again, if y'all just Google Ozempic versus Wegovy, it's literally the same medication. It's just the brand name. So a lot of times from a branding standpoint, if you're a diabetic, I can get you Ozempic, but if I say, hey, I need to get some Wegovy, you may have some difficulty getting it. But remember, it is the same medication. It's just the dosing is different. So by the dosing, the healthcare professional can tell you, all right, oh, you're taking this for weight loss, strictly by the dosing. But the dosing says, like, if it's higher, it's, oh, you're taking this for diabetic patients. But remember, both these medications are the same exact thing here. Let's see here. What happens after? Oh, it's a great question. Anna says, what happens after you stop the medication? So like any medication, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetic medication, is that once you stop taking the medication, because these medications are made to be chronic medications, right? Even in the case of our for patients strictly taking it for weight loss, they're made for you to continue to be taking it. Now, of course, what the hope is, and first of all, these medications, when I tell you they work great, the studies have shown up to 10 to 50% of weight loss on an average, right? Average body weight, 10 to 15%. Y'all just think about that number, 10 to 15%. That's a lot. But it's with the hope is that, hey, maybe if I can get you down to 10 to 15%, maybe you don't need as much blood pressure medications. Maybe you don't need as much cholesterol medications. Maybe you adjust and fix your diet enough, right? So that maybe you can come off this medication here. But the idea is that these types of medications here, you would stay on chronically until you don't need them no more. And if you're at the point where because obviously we want to wean you off of it. Because it's not something where if you're taking it one day, you have to like decrease your dose by 50% for the next 5 weeks, right? No, if you take it today and this Monday is your last day taking it, you're good. Like you don't have to worry about any rebound effects. But the idea is that you should be trying to take it chronically, right? Because that's how they pictured it when they were prescribing it for the diabetic patients. That, oh, this is a medication they're going to take forever. Now, the weight loss is definitely through a wrench. And obviously, the goal is not to have to take a medication like that forever, because eventually you should top out and not lose as much weight as you lost, especially if you lost a considerable amount of weight. And it should just be on maintain mode. So hopefully by that time you're on maintain mode, you're able to kind of change some of your diet and other things from that standpoint there. Someone says Mounjaro is better. Yeah, no, like the now they haven't done, and let's highlight this comment. So they haven't done any head-to-head studies. There is no which makes sense, right? Because remember, it's the same class of medication. It's literally the same class of medication. The dosing is a little different. The Mounjaro has this G1P agonist that kind of adds a little, I'm assuming. But it's like, let's say 90% is the same class of a medication. So there's no studies that like are butting head to head. All they need to do, right? And this is the best thing, especially about these medications, right? Because there's not that many. Because remember, Wegovy is the first one FDA approved since 2014. Since 2014. So all I have to do is compare myself to the placebo, aka not taking it. So if I got two groups, one person taking Mounjaro, one person taking a placebo, a sugar pill, and this group loses a lot of weight, and this group drops their A1C, guess what? I'm a winner. But yeah, some people will definitely say, hey, give me Mounjaro, and some people on the other side will say, give me my Wegovy, right, or Ozempic. But again, for correctness sake, we'll just keep calling it Wegovy here. And we kind of answer the question about someone saying, do you need to take this forever? No, the goal is that you shouldn't have to. The goal is that you should not have to take it forever. I'm sorry. All right. Yep. And Tiff says, out of all the thousands of people taking, only 2 people have stomach paralysis. Yeah. And again, the stomach paralysis, again, it's a good word, right? It's like, if I'm trying to scare y'all, I'm going to tell you that it causes stomach paralysis. I'm not going to say, hey, this thing causes gastroparesis. I'm not going to say that. Robin, I appreciate you. I appreciate the hearts. I appreciate that. I'm not going to tell you that it causes gastroparesis. I'm going to say, oh, this thing causes stomach paralysis. Stay away. Like, I'm going to do that because I know that's a much scarier turn. It's because in your mind, you're thinking, what is stomach paralysis? What is that? So let's talk about that. When we talk about gastroparesis, all that is, hey, normally I go to eat a meal, after about 20, 30 minutes, it done gone through my stomach, it's going through my small intestines, it's doing what it needs to do. when you have gastroparesis, and I take care of a lot of patients who deal with, chronic gastroparesis because of them being diabetic, not because of medication, but just because you're a diabetic, you can have gastroparesis. Because that, all of a sudden, that same meal, it takes them a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. So think about this. Maybe, everyone's talking about, you eat 3 times a day. Imagine if you eat breakfast and then 1 o'clock comes around, you go to eat lunch and you start getting, stomach pain. You feeling like you're vomiting because all of the food that you ate at breakfast is still sitting in your stomach. Now, this is something we don't even have to think about because our especially those who don't have gastroparesis, that food moves like it's supposed to move. But if you have a patient whose food does not move like that, guess what? Now they go to eat at 8 o'clock. They may not be able to eat till like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They're hungry. Don't get it twisted. They're hungry. But they know if they eat any earlier, that food may hit the stomach at the same time and then it comes out. So again, if I'm going to say a scary term, for sure I'm going to tell you stomach paralysis. But once we kind of understand, like, all right, what is this stomach paralysis? Oh, okay, gastroparesis. What is gastroparesis? Okay, slowing of my digestive system down. What do these medications do? Slow my digestive system down, aka decrease stomach emptying. Oh, okay. And for the patients who get that, it's not a common side effect. So when it comes to medications, whatever side effect it is, whether it's nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pain. Oh, Robin, shout out to Robin for real. Whatever that thing is, I have to mention it. I have to say, hey, this is something that's happening. I can't tell you that, oh, this is not a side effect, because all it has to do is happen to one person. And most people realize that. Like, all it has to do is happen to one person, and we have to list it as a side effect. So yes, it's not necessarily a common side effect, but it is a side effect to say the least. And the good healthcare providers, before they're prescribing you these medications here, are going to let you know, hey, this is the things you may experience. You may experience, slowing of your digestive system down. You may experience some nausea. You may experience some diarrhea. You may experience these things here. I don't want you to be afraid and say, I'm not going to take this medication no more because you're experiencing it, because it is what we expect it to occur. We got some copay. We got some copay, testimonials here, right? So someone says their copay is $500. $500. Remember, right now, Mounjaro's approved for diabetics. So this is not even the weight loss thing. So to get that, you have to be proven that you're a diabetic for your insurance to cover anything. Because if you don't have diabetes, you try to get this insurance, hell, you're not even diabetic. Get out of here. Get out of here. Pay this money here, right? So yeah, $500, and this is not uncommon. That's why you see so many people who are going to these weight loss clinics. That's why you see a lot of these, like, hey, come over here, pay $500 for Mounjaro, pay $500 for Ozempic, pay, like, a lot of these weight loss clinics, and not even weight loss clinics, but just clinics on the side that are promoting it, is that they're able to get the medication, especially the healthcare providers. They're able to order the medication directly and then provide it to their patients at a not say cheaper cost, because they're going to get money, but they're able to provide their patients at a cost. So definitely understand for sure. Keaton says, and this is, I feel Keaton, I'm a diabetic. Stop giving Mounjaro out for weight loss. We need it more. Yes, I'm with you. I am with you. If you're a healthcare provider, especially because, again, the supply and demand is just not there, we should prioritize our diabetic patients to get that medication, the Mounjaro. If you get Wegovy we know is strictly for your weight loss. But if you're giving it for weight loss, give the Wegovy. Don't give the Mounjaro, because, again, it makes it difficult for our diabetic patients who actually need that class of medication to get it. Shout out to Keaton for sure. Definitely understand. This is a good question. Someone said, why can't they make more? Because it's one of the things I kind of mentioned how when they initially said, hey, we got this many diabetic patients in the world. All right, let's produce this much. And then all these people started losing weight. They're like, oh, and then demand went through the roof, right? So they didn't have the demand because they didn't expect all of these diabetic patients to want this medication. They're like, nah. There's so much, because there's a lot of different diabetic medications. So if you're a new diabetic medication on the block, you're not going to produce, let's say, random number. You're not going to produce 1 million, right, units of this drug, right? Because you that's not the audience you have, right? You may only have an audience for 100,000, but then people start losing a lot of weight from it, and all of a sudden you only produce 100,000, but 1 million people want it, right? So that's what's happening now. And again, these medications aren't just quick snap and hurry, come quick. So that's where the supply and demand issue is coming into play. Camille says definitely that's why water and green veggies daily are needed. 100%. 100%. Diet is always going to be important for sure. Is what you need. Why part of the shortage, definitely. I see a lot of comments for the men who was able to work on their hair loss and get that erection medication on deck. Shout out to them. And Jade says I need the pill fast. So right now they are working on formulations for an oral form of the medications. Right now they don't have it. So again, because a lot of us went through the pandemic, thank God, right? Because if you're here, you went through the pandemic, even though it's still here, right? But just, the height of it. And you saw, like, in live time what it takes to produce a medication, right? The vaccine. So now a lot of people are experiencing like, oh, it's not just real easy to just go and make a new medication, right? Because you still got to go through all the steps. Now, the vaccine went through all the steps, but they were able to go through it quicker because they had so many more people who were willing to join the studies, right? So now, again, to get a pill form, you got to test safety. You got to get enough people to say, hey, I'm willing to join that trial, and all these things there. So they are working on a pill form, but right now, from immediate standpoint, it's all about the injections, for sure. Camille says everyone insulin resistance should get it. Drugs are used for off-label. Oh, yeah, and this is a great point too, right? RK says drugs are used for off-label uses all the time. 100%. 100%. A lot of times we are using drugs that are like, hey, this drug usually works for this, but hey, by the way, it also works over here too. So we're gonna give it over here. For example, Cymbalta is a very common medication for neuropathy, right? Nerve-related pain. But what they notice is that, hey, you know what? It also does well for patients who are depressed, especially at certain doses. So it's one of those things where, again, just kind of like Wegovy, I know whether you're taking Cymbalta for neuropathy versus depression based on the dose that you're taking, right? So it's very common. So it is not uncommon. I like that RK said that. It is not uncommon to be taking medications for off-label use. Unfortunately, when you take a medication for off-label use, and the off-label use is more popular than the actual use, the people who need it for the actual use gets burnt. I think the best example was during the pandemic. Everyone was, what was that medication? I'm gonna draw a blank. I'm gonna draw a blank here, but there's a medication that typically used for our lupus patients. And everyone thought that they could use it for COVID, and they all, I blocked my memory out because I hate that I don't remember, but I'll remember it before this live ends. But they used it all for COVID related, and that's what happens. All of a sudden, the people who needed it, right? People who needed it for lupus couldn't even get it for lupus anymore because all the COVID patients were buying it by the dozens, right? So that's what's happening now. That the off-label use is that population of people who are using it is superseding those who are using it for the typical use. Very good question. Very good question. And we talked about the money. Yeah, that's 1,000 to 1,400, just depending on. Like I said, I look on GoodRx just to get an idea. But yeah, your local pharmacy, right? Especially if they're in business, right? They know. Again, it's supply and demand. I got the drug. You're coming to see me. I'm gonna add a little tax on it. And if you really want it, you're going to get it. Someone said, are nosebleeds a side effect? No, we haven't seen that in regards to, because I was looking at the prescriber information, which again, I don't suggest you do if you don't have to. It's for these medications here and things that they shown. And we'll just list some of the side effects that they shown. Patients can suffer acute pancreatitis, gallbladder disease, acute kidney injury, Diabetic retinopathy, that's vision related issues. We talked about that last week. Hypersensitivity, those are like reactions. So those are just some of the things that could possibly happen. But bleeding isn't listed on any of the medications there. This is a good one too, and this is the thing important. Ask your doctor for coupons. A lot of healthcare providers and physicians out there, especially because the team Mounjaro, the team Wegovy of the world, and those pharmacy reps, they're going to clinical practices trying to get doctors to prescribe this medication. So they're leaving doctors with a lot of coupons. And again, if you go to Wegovy.com, there's a section that says coupon, right? If you go to Wegovy.com, there's a section that says coupon. I think you have to give your name and email address in there. You give your name and email address on there, and then they'll shoot you a coupon for I think it's like a low copay for 12 refills or something like that. So that's always a cheat code, right? Go to the actual manufacturer's website to see if there's a coupon there, especially if your drug is pretty expensive. Shameful they're getting rich off sick people they need. User a whole bunch of numbers says shameful they're getting rich off of sick people that need it. This is medicine. This is medicine. And this is that statement right there is the reason why a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people, ain't really a lot, right? But a good amount of people, a good subset of people don't like the pharmaceutical industry as well as the healthcare industry, because they feel that we are in it nothing for the money. Like they think we're only in this for the money, nothing about patient care. So they see instances like this where like, hey, this medication works great for patients who need to lose weight. Why not get it to them cheaper so they can actually afford it? And they're like, no. And we want to make our money. So they want to make their billions of dollars, because they will make billions of dollars, because a lot of people need to lose weight from that perspective. But again, I feel you. I feel you, user, a whole bunch of numbers. I understand exactly what you mean. Billy says he pays $25, but the cash price is $17.80. Whew. Thank God for good insurance. That's for sure. Billy has some good insurance. Too funny. We have TRICARE for military retirees. I pay $38. All right, so shout out to the military. Shout out to the military. Military covering it. $38 a month for Wegovy. Let me see here. Copay expired. $500. Oh yeah. No, it's expensive. Yeah, I'm just making sure I don't miss anything here. Someone said, and again, I just want to highlight this. Tirzepatide will be for weight loss. So yes, tirzepatide, right, is the generic name for Mounjaro. So it is the same medication, but because of branding and the way the FDA works, once it becomes an FDA approved medication for weight loss, they'll call it something else. So in 3 to 6 months, whenever that trial, because they're in like the third stage of that trial now anyways, for tirzepatide or Mounjaro. Once that trial goes down and they say, yep, it's official, it does great for weight loss, which we already know it does, and we're going to market it as strictly a weight loss drug, they will have to come up with a different brand name specifically for the tirzepatide dose that is strictly for weight loss. They'll come up with that. Nothing that you guys need to worry about. But it's just the same way where, like, when people say Mounjaro versus Ozempic, it's not really Ozempic. Yes, it's the same medication. Yes, it's the same medication, but it's not really that, right? Because from an FDA standpoint, I can't come on TV and be like, hey, I have Ozempic for weight loss. Like, think about that. From a legal standpoint, I can't go on TV saying, hey, I have Ozempic for weight loss. I can go on TV and say I have Wegovy for weight loss, but I cannot go on TV and say I have Ozempic for weight loss because it is not approved. Ozempic, the brand name Ozempic, is not approved for weight loss, but Wegovy is, even though Wegovy is the same thing based on the doses. Again, it's annoying, right? It's annoyingly tricky, but that's just unfortunately the way our laws kind of work. Good luck I see a whole bunch of people saying they're taking their first shot, so good luck to everyone. And I mean, this is really the most important thing is, especially in this country here, we have an issue with just weight loss, right? We just have an issue with obesity. We have an issue with all of the chronic issues associated with it. And it's gotten to the point now, right? Because we used to victim blame. We used to victim blame a lot, right? We used to say, oh, the patients can't lose weight. They're eating too much. They're not exercising. Like, we used to just kind of simplify it to that. And thankfully, studies after studies have shown that, hey, there's a lot of different reasons why people cannot lose weight. But unfortunately, even though the studies have shown, hey, there's a lot of different reasons why patients can't lose weight, there hasn't been a lot of medications to help. To the point where, especially before Wegovy and soon to be Mounjaro, whatever the new name will be, the recommendations were for patients to have surgery, right? The insurance companies were recognizing, hey, we were spending so much money on weight loss and obesity and obesity-related complications that it's cheaper for us to pay for your obesity-related surgery, right, than have to pay for all of the complications. Like, that is how bad it's gotten in this country, that the insurance companies, mind you, they don't want to pay for no surgery because they're cheap. They want to make their billions. But they say, hey, we would actually save money if we would just pay for the surgery. Let's start paying for the surgery. So then the recommendations from healthcare providers were, hey, we need to start recommending our patients for surgical intervention earlier. So, but now, right, Wegovy and this new medication is going to come out. It's going to be great because, hey, now I have an extra step. I have an extra layer that I can get to before paying for the surgery. And eventually, insurance companies will get around and pay for it because eventually they'll realize that, hey, these patients, they can't afford this $1,000, $1,500 medication, right? We got to start covering it. Because guess what? If we cover it and then they lose their weight, guess what? That's less blood pressure medications, that's less diabetes medications, right? That's less complications. That's less issues that we're going to have to pay for at the end, right? So they're not doing it at the kindness of their heart. They're recognizing that the dollar amount that they're going to save once they start covering these medications to help us lose weight is going to save them billions, right? Unfortunately, it is what it is. I'm a realist. I understand the game. So I'm like, hey, we appreciate you, but, that's just what's happened, especially in the game here. Let's see. All right. Make sure we don't miss any. I want to make sure we don't miss any questions. Yep, someone says there's a weight loss clinic that you can get it for $125, right? And the reason why is because the clinics are able to purchase the actual vials, right, at a much bigger discount. So let's say I have one vial. Let's say I have one vial and I can treat 20 patients. Let's say I could treat 20 patients. I'm just spitballing. I could treat 20 patients with this one vial, and I charge 20 patients, right, $125 for that vial to come see me because it's a weekly drug. So come see me 4 times a week. It's an easy solution. It's an easy proposition. Hey, you know what? I can make about 4 to 5 times as much that I pay for this vial just by individually hitting folks off, and then just say, hey, come see my clinic for $125. Oh, that's easy. I'll do that all day, every day. Again, this, and here on Real Physician Reacts, we like to mix the real aspect of medicine, because I know a lot of people, especially who follow me, like to hear like the behind the scenes aspect of healthcare and the capitalistic aspect of healthcare. Because I'm just real, right? I'll be honest with you. I got no point to lie to y'all. But that's the reason why it's only $125. Shout out to the health clinic, because I'm pretty sure they're busy. What insurance cover the medications? So the question is, when insurance will cover these medications? Typically, it starts out with, obviously Medicare is the big one, right? Medicare needs to cover it. And then all of the other subsequent ones will cover it in a way or fashion. We have a lot of people who are in the military who's already got, because the military is usually, right, because the military is government too. TRICARE, that's government insurance. So you have, usually the government insurances will cover first, and then the subsequent Blue Cross, Aetna's, United will follow suit eventually. But again, they're going to be slow because there are other medications that are specifically for diabetes that work well. And when it comes to diabetes, there are obesity-related medications that are there too that are also cheaper, that they'd rather cover than cover this newer drug. But once enough people are covering it, then it'll just kind of be a snowball effect. Let's see. Congratulations, Meredith. Meredith says she's down 10 pounds. Congratulations. Like I said, it works great. It works great. I think that's why you're seeing so much emphasis and news about it, because we haven't had, again, 2014, we haven't had medications that work great for losing weight in a long time, almost a decade. So now that we have a couple people here, a couple drugs here that can do that, and you're seeing pharmaceutical companies going towards that, investing in that, that's why you're seeing a lot of the fanfare from that perspective there. Someone said they're down 40 since April. Shout out to you, user 24. We'll highlight here. User 248 and a whole bunch of numbers says she's down 40 pounds. Like I said, it is a great medication here from that standpoint there. Molly says my insurance forces me to try Trulicity first. Yeah. Trulicity is on the diabetic side. It's in that class of medications where Mounjaro and Wegovy are. So they're going to want you to try those medications first. Show that those medications don't help decrease your A1, because they don't. Because there is studies, right? Mounjaro, there are studies with Mounjaro comparing to the other GLP agonists like Trulicity and others, and Mounjaro is kicking their butt. But unfortunately, the insurance company, because the way they do, right, they want you to go through the ones that are cheaper first, then work your way down to say, like, okay, all right, we'll finally get that. But again, shout out to this user here. She is down 40 pounds since April. Someone said, what can I do to avoid a stomach pain? Now, I'm not sure if, which medication you're planning on taking, but typically what happens with both these medications, there is some semblance there, just because of the way those medications work, you're going to have some GI upset stomachs. Typically, your doctors will start you on a low dose and slowly work your way up to your body can tolerate it. But it's really not anything you can kind of avoid. It's just really your body getting used to that medication. So that stomach pain you're experiencing is the medication. I hate to say the medication working, but that's kind of the side effect of the medication working. Let's see. Make sure we don't. Someone says, the Mounjaro and Wegovy are the medication. Someone asked us to pronounce the medication here. Someone said Mounjaro covered $5 copay through UPS Team Care. Shout out to UPS Team Care. Shout out today. Congrats and good luck on your journey, JM Rudiger. Good luck on your journey. Like I said, have you heard of doctors using seizure medication for weight loss? I'm trying to think of the common seizure medications. And I can't think of any that have any direct correlation for weight loss. That's definitely would be an off-label use. But at the top of my head, I can't think of one. Someone had a question about is there anyone using seizure medications for weight loss? And I can't think of any at this time here. Let me see. All right. Topamax. I have to look up that. So I'll definitely look up that for sure. Topamax being in. Shannon says she lost 93 pounds in 7 months. Congratulations. Like I said, I'm excited too, right? And that's the thing. We have to, again, we have to, 83 pounds. Oh yeah, everybody's killing it. 15 pounds for Victoza. That's another one in that same class that works, right? So we got some drugs. Like we got some drugs that, again, that haven't been promoted as weight loss medications, but our diabetic patients know about them because it's been helping. But again, it's one of those things where, like, hey, I didn't do the research studies for the weight loss, so I can't really put it out there. But like the pharmaceutical reps would be like, hey, by the way, tell your patient that they can lose some weight, even though I'm not allowed to tell you. Like they'll tell you that. They can't verbally say that because you're not allowed to say it, because again, there's rules. But they'll say, hey, side effects is I've seen some people lose some weight. So these newer drugs, Wegovy, Mounjaro, are the two of the newest ones where like the weight loss has been such like a home run that like people are screaming from the rooftops like, oh my God, this thing is losing a lot. Like, mind you, especially because remember the diabetic medications, the goal of decreasing your A1C works great in these two medications here. It's amazing in these two medications here. But it's just the fact that they saw so much weight loss occurring that they're like, all right, we can't even ignore the weight loss anymore. We can't even act act like the weight loss isn't happening from that standpoint. Lisa says, is Ozempic better than Trulicity? Yes. So, yes, the studies that Ozempic went through to show again, remember, they weren't doing it for weight loss. They were just doing it to see, hey, will Ozempic work better than Trulicity for decreasing your A1C? And they're like, oh, yeah, it definitely works better in decreasing your A1C. Oh, it also works better in losing some weight, right? Like, it was like, oh, my God, this is all right, we might have something here. So this is why all the fanfare is there, because this is probably going to be $1 billion industry. Just weight loss in and of itself is $1 billion industry. So if you're the new kid on the block and you're like the top 2 alphas as far as medications concerned, strictly for losing weight, you got $1 billion in your pocket. Just like when Pfizer, right, said, hey, I'm trying to, grow some hair, and they started realizing everyone was getting erections. They're like, oh, we're going over here because we know men and their sexual dysfunction is going to be $1 billion industry, right? So it's the same premise from that standpoint there. Oh, let's see here. Let me see. Someone's asking, yeah, these insurance companies will eventually cover it. The time being will just be a matter of waiting. It's almost like, all right, like this person has to cover it and this person cover it. All right, we'll eventually cover it because they don't want to be left behind from that standpoint there. Let's see. Let's see. Yep. Oh, I see. I'm seeing all these people who are doing amazing on the Mounjaro or Ozempic or go. They just shout out to y'all. Make sure y'all don't forget that. Like, yeah, shout out to y'all for sure. Again, and some people are able to get it for the cheap because of good, insurance and copay. Some people got to pay out the pocket. But again, it's just one of those things where, again, if you can afford it, right? If you can afford it, especially right now, if you can afford it, you're likely going to take it, right? It's just something that you're going to get involved with for sure. All right. Oh, it's 10 o'clock. All right, guys. So it's this hour. It's the hour. First of all, I want to say shout out to everyone who's joined the live. He's shown a lot of love. We saw a lot of roses, a lot of hearts. I think Robin was on here earlier, gave me like a cake or something. Shout out to that. You guys are doing a fabulous job. I love the questions. Oh, look at this. I like that. Like a lighting. Okay. Appreciate you guys. Remember, if you did not catch the beginning, I take this episode, I put it on my podcast episode, Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. It will be on tomorrow. If you like watching the video, unfortunately, you won't be able to see the comments, but I'll have the video on our YouTube page, link in the bio as well. Y'all be blessed. Make sure you like, make sure you share, and I'm going to see you guys next week. Bye.